Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Tracilyn. I'm also known as VCat, and you are on the VCat vlog. Unless you found this video somewhere else, which is very possible nowadays. It could be all over the place. And my hope is that it is. I hope it spreads like a virus around the internet. I am sharing with you right now, doing what I call catch-up. Should be called the catch-up series. Because 40 years of my life I have not been opened with you. Maybe you. Maybe you shared life with me at some point. I hope so. It's an opportunity for you to get to know me deeper. We are at my house number 2. Remember I told you if you go back a few videos, and you can go back a few videos by going to VCat vlog on YouTube. I told you that our parents have separated. That was my home base for family life. The birthplace was in Lebanon, Pennsylvania at a hospital. I had a home life in Ono, Pennsylvania. And house number 2 is in Jonestown, Pennsylvania. Things have changed a little bit since I've been here. It's a little noisier, a little more populated. That's a good thing. And also, alongside house number 2 is the very first school that I went to. I'm looking forward to sharing that whole experience with you as we go through the years 3 through 6. That would be approximately 1975 to, what's 1975 plus 3? Do you know? Help me. Yes, 1978. I didn't get the exact address. It might be Market Street. I'm not sure. The ironic thing is, remember I told you your first house was there at the Swati, and I showed how we used to have fun down at the Swati. In a little bit, I'm going to show you down here. The Swati, the main Swati goes through here. We always lived by the Swati. And it was very country-oriented out here. So right here is the front porch that inspired many songs. But the ultimate song that I've written called Only Spoken Words. That is the front porch that we had a lot of fun times and not so fun times. A lot of tears fell on that porch. But there was a lot of fun times. And I'm looking forward to sharing with you right now. So, in this home, so I lived through the ages of 3 through 6. Remember, I didn't really have a babysitter. My mom didn't take me anywhere for a babysitter. She preferred to raise her children to the best of her ability. We were on a tight salary, you know, as far as to taking care of us and everything. Eventually, she did get a job, even before I was in school. But instead of going out and getting a babysitter, one of her friends, I'm not sure she was some kind of a relative, a distant relative maybe, but her, it was a good friend of hers and a friend of the family who became family. We had a live-in nanny. I think she was a registered nurse. My mom obviously was involved in healthcare facilities, taking care of the elderly. She had very strong passion about that. She loved to care for people. Started with her children, and it was just everybody in her life. Like I said, everybody in the neighborhood always called her Mom. And we were very traditional at that time for the 70s. 75 through 78. Let me just say that there was many times on that front porch that I would be waiting for my father to pick me up on the weekends. I understand, he was a truck driver. He was gone a lot throughout the week. And when the weekends would come, when I would get that phone call, I would get so excited. And he would tell me to get out front on the front porch. He's coming for me. And I would be looking up and down the roadway. He'd usually be coming from this direction, but sometimes he would be coming from this direction. It depends. But usually this direction over here. And the reason that was is because when he pulled up, in front of the house. The van door to get into the back was on the passenger side. There were many times, for whatever reason, that I would be standing there waiting for him. And I can't remember if he did call and he said he was on his way over, and things came up, plans changed. I'm not quite sure if I just took it upon myself to wait out there expecting that he was going to come. I don't know. Did I have high expectations? What do you think? There were many times that it was either delayed, maybe because he was out on the road, maybe he overslept. I don't know what any reason is. I'm not here to determine that, but what I'm here to share with you is I spent many times waiting there on the front porch, and I shed many tears. Many tears. There was many times my mom would walk up to that screen door over there, and she would also have tears in her eyes, but not because of him, because she saw me crying. And she was kind of speechless. She didn't know what to say because she didn't want to say anything bad. She knew how much I loved my father, very much. So she didn't want to put any bad word out there and manipulate my mind into thinking less of him than I felt. She firmly believed that it was for me and what she believed God to be to work that out and let me come up with my own idea of who my father was. So at that time, I didn't have understanding. Why isn't my daddy showing up? It was very painful because I really loved him and I looked forward to seeing him. So I have forgiveness for everything because I don't even really understand all the reasonings behind it or if there were any excuses. If they were excuses, what happened? Different things happened, and I realize that now. I have let a lot of people down in my life unwittingly, and sometimes I might have done it on purpose. Oh, shame on me, right? I guess I'm human, right? Human behavior. We mess up sometimes. And sometimes we do it on purpose. But I wouldn't want to intentionally hurt anybody most times anymore. I think so, unless you really hurt me. So anyway, many tears on there. But let me share something with you that was fun. We used to get thunderstorms here. Remember I told you about the Swati way back? If you haven't, you might want to refresh up by listening to a few of the videos before. It's going to be a lot of videos here. I'm figuring about 20 hours of material to share my life with you. Approximately. Could be a lot more. I'm going to try to speed things up. I might end up skipping some things and then have to go back in time and kind of refresh your memory, or refresh my memory by sharing it with you. Here's the thing. We used to get a lot of thunderstorms, and they weren't just your average thunderstorms. I mean, to me as a little kid, I was probably up to my kneecap right here maybe. Maybe up to my midsection. Do you think it was at my midsection? And we would have lightning. I love lightning. I always did, but I was scared of lightning. I didn't want that lightning to hit our house. I didn't want that lightning to hit me. But what we would do as children is we would go out to the front porch. Now, let me tell you something. That porch looks so tiny nowadays. Look, oh wait, what's going on here? There it is. That porch looks so tiny nowadays. But at the time, when I was living there, it didn't look so tiny to me. It looked tremendously big. And I remember running across with my little legs across that porch. So when we would go outside when it was raining, we would of course get yelled at for running in and out and slamming the screen door. Let's see if this is fixed. Here we go. There we go. So we would get yelled at for slamming the screen door and screaming and yelling a lot of times. But we would go out there and we would hear the thunder, and then we would be running out, looking out over top, like it was going to come down at us. And let me tell you, when that lightning cracked, the thunder cracked, and we saw the flash, and a lot of times we saw lightning bolts over there, which now there's houses over there. It used to be a big empty field, I think. Not sure what was there anymore. If it was a cornfield, I think is what it was. Yeah, it was a cornfield over here. But what would end up happening is we would all run into the house, or we would run up against the the side of the front of the house. It was amazing. Amazing the fun things that we used to do as a kid. What about you? Do you ever remember playing games like that? Where you was with your siblings or whoever, your friends, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, your neighbors. You'd sit out front and just watch the rain, just enjoy the rain and the lightning, and get scared, scare each other. Because you start pushing each other around out to try to get them wet and stuff like that. That was a big thing, running in the rain. I used to love running in the rain. We were never allowed to when it thundered or lightened. Whatever you do, don't do that. Okay? If it's just raining, you know, just be careful. You don't want to slip and fall, sprain an ankle or anything, right? I don't want to put fear in you. Just be careful when you do that. One thing I remember about this house is, of course, it's older, is there was ants in our kitchen. Oh, there was many, 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 many ants in our kitchen. I was often very scared to go into the kitchen because the ants. I want to share with you right now. It's pretty deep. It was an extreme turning point in my life. Remember I told you the next place is where my imagination was ignited. And can I just say before I start going on about what ignited that imagination, can I just share with you that as I speak, I have forgiveness for absolutely everything that I perceived as maybe not being the nicest, most pleasant experiences. I'm grateful for who I am today, and that's the most important. Where I am today. Our past or things that we go through, it is not who we are. It's kind of like a process of going down a piece of machinery in a factory. You know, maybe a piece of chocolate. You know, I don't know, what else do they make in factories? Cars? Computers? One thing you'll never see on an assembly line in a factory is Tracilyn, also known as a VCAT. So, one of the biggest turning points in my life, let me see if I can get a little closer here without upsetting anybody. Back here, I'm going to quick show you. There's a living room. Okay. Right about where that air conditioner is. Right alongside that back screen door. Oops, there we go. Like where that air conditioner is. Maybe the next window open. There's a dining room. Okay, up front of this house is the living room. And after the living room used to be a dining room. And in that dining room, I was sitting down one day and I was playing Old Maid. Do you know what Old Maid is? Have you ever played Old Maid? I used to love playing Old Maid. And basically what it is it's a bunch of cards. And there's two of everything. And the images vary. You know, some might be an automobile. It may be a farmer, a cartoon farmer, or maybe what we consider to be a grandmother. Different images. And the trick of it is you put them all upside down, and as you go through and you lift these cards up, you can only lift one up at a time, but it's your memory. You got to remember, where was that card? Because the whole goal is you take turns with your friends, you go through and you try to get, after you get the first card, for instance, just say you get a farmer. What you end up doing is you go through the other cards and you try to find the other farmer that matches, the exact same farmer. So I would often do that by myself because the other children were in school and I wanted to be close to my mother. So I don't remember where my mother was this day specifically. Okay, I don't know who was home with me, but I do know that I wasn't alone. After the dining room, there is also a very small kitchen. In that kitchen, separating from the dining room is kind of like, there used to be like a sway door. Have you ever seen one of them on the hinges? So when you open it, it closes by itself. It might go back and forth for a little bit. And for some reason, that day when I was playing my cards, from what I remember, understand, this is from what I remember. And it was before I was in first grade, so it was before I was 6, and it was sometime after the age of 3. So between the ages of 3 and 5. I went to that kitchen, and then I walked out of that kitchen. And I went and I sat back down at that old maid card game on the floor. And my imagination was ignited. I had my first imaginary friend. Now, I have seen specialists and talked to them about this situation. I have reevaluated and reevaluated this over and over again. Now, I'm going to share with you what I believe were some possibilities. I don't know what happened that day when I went into that kitchen, but I do know that it shocked my system. There's possibilities that maybe I was molested. There's possibilities, understand, possibilities. It could have happened. There's also the possibility that maybe I walked in on something that just traumatized me as a child. Something I never saw before. Something that was just totally a shock to my system. Do you ever remember that? Did that happen to you recently? As you were going through life, did something shock you that much that you didn't even want to remember it? That you don't even want to talk about it with anyone? Let me tell you something. For many years, I didn't want to talk about that with anyone. Many reasons. I was scared to talk about it to other people. I didn't know how to talk about it to other people. Let's be honest. I didn't know how to talk about it to other people, but I'm talking about it with you. Look, I'm not hiding. I'm sharing it with you. And I'm here to share with you that whatever it was one of the greatest blessings. It wasn't meant to be a curse. Not in the big scheme of things. And I'll tell you why. Because I probably have one of the most creative imaginations of anyone you will ever meet. And from that day, I went and I sat down at that old maid game. And I gotta be honest with you. Let me be honest with you. I don't know if it was an imaginary friend, or do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in angels? Do you believe in angels? Maybe I met an angel that day. Maybe it was a spiritual encounter. What do you think? Maybe I saw a ghost. Maybe it had nothing to do with a human being. Maybe I tripped and I fell. Maybe I pinched my finger and it covered. What do you think about that? Let us just open our minds to what can't be remembered. Something shocked my system. Let us not jump to conclusions, because I don't want to hurt anybody, and I don't want to assume something that I can't actually testify and witness to as being true. I'm not out to hurt anybody. I'm out to share my life story, okay? So let's make that very clear. What about you? Do you believe in ghosts? As you find out, I had many spiritual encounters. It could have been a ghost, could have been an angel sitting with me that day, maybe protecting me. But something happened back there. Oh yes. And when I sat back down, I had my first imaginary friend or angel. And this energy source, I knew was love. It loved me very much. And it was protecting me. And it wanted to be my friend. So I started talking to it. From that day on, I continued to have my imaginary friend. And that friend would go with me everywhere. And we would laugh together and we would play together all over the backyard. And there's a playground out back that I'm going to show you. Now, I did some research and understand I don't have as much time as I would like to do as extensive research. But you could do it. You could do it for me. Would you do that? Let's look up the Dukes of Hazzard. Because in this house, 2 amazing other things happened. Let me tell you, this is where Tracilyn first became an entertainer, the house entertainer. One of the most well-known celebrities and icons of this country, of the world, is the king of rock and roll. And it was super big during those times, of course, through the 50s and 60s and into the 70s. And I remember watching Elvis on television in this living room, right over here, behind me. And that's the first time my legs began to shake. Oh yeah. And that's the first time I wanted to dance. Oh, did I want to dance and sing? Oh, I wanted to be Elvis Presley. And I just watched that show. I don't remember the show it was, but I just know Elvis was on our television screen dancing and singing. And I was madly in love, probably with him before that. But at that time is when I first remember here reflecting back. I wanted to be like Elvis. Was it before this time with the old maid card game? Or was it after? I can't tell you that. I don't know. Which happened first? Just going to go through and share different things that happened in this house. A lot of amazing turning points. This is life-changing here. So with Elvis, I instantly knew that I love to shake my legs, dance, and entertain people because other people would be watching me and laughing at me. And everybody in our household loved Elvis Presley. And let's just say right away, I'm going to get this out of the way really quick, this is a house that was actually divided in two back in the day. And on this side, we lived in our family. But also on the other side was our cousins, my mother's brother, who was my uncle. And my uncle was married to my aunt. You got that all figured out so far? So they lived on the other side and they had children. And let's see, they had 3 boys. And later on had a girl. And then you had us children over here. And we used to all play together. So it was a big family. And we played a lot of times. And the older guys in the family, the siblings, I mean, they also loved Elvis Presley. Our household loved Elvis Presley. If I'm not mistaken, since I lived here, now I understand, I'm not 100% sure. You can look this stuff up. Did you look up about the Dukes of Hazzard yet? You know when they came out? Was it during this time or was it not? Oh, I may embarrass myself here by not knowing the exact dates. I'm sorry. Let me take off my glasses for a little while. How's that? You want to see my face? You want to see that, you want to see me cry if I start to cry? You like to see people cry? Hold on. Give me 1 second here. So, here we go. So with this being said, Elvis Presley, and everybody loves Elvis. My mom loved Elvis. If I'm not mistaken, when we heard the news about Elvis passing, I'm not sure if my mother had tickets to any show anywhere, or she didn't. But I do remember where I was. My mother was in the bathroom and she was crying. She heard it on the radio. We listened to music all the time. And the television wasn't on. Let me get in the sunlight a little bit. When the television wasn't on, the radio was on. And the king was worshipped in our house. Pretty much so. What kind of music do you like? What did you grow up? Do you remember the first person you sang and danced to? You remember the games you used to play, maybe by yourself? Did you have imaginary friends? Do you remember seeing angels or ghosts? I'm curious to know. I promise not to make fun of you. You can make fun of me, though. I give you permission. So here we are. Let's get into the sunlight a little bit. I think I told you that I was going to try to do that. So we got Elvis, and he's dancing, getting me to dance. And I became the entertainer of our family. Now let me tell you something. My mom was going through a hard time raising 4 children on her own. And I'm going to be very straightforward with this. Know that I'm not trying to insult anybody or condone anybody what somebody else has done. But my mom was a drinker. She drank a lot. And there's not a day that I remember, especially on the weekends, I would come down the steps and I would see my mother on the floor in front of her floor stereo with her headphones on, listening to her 45s her albums, vinyl albums. Crying in her beer and smoking cigarettes. She loved to smoke and she loved to drink. And back in the day, it was acceptable. You know, people weren't as educated as we are now. So I would sneak down there and I would see her crying. And it always broke my heart. Can you imagine how hard, or maybe you do know, maybe you know how challenging it is to do life what feels to be alone, have so much responsibility of all the other lives. Can you imagine the pressure that she had? You know? And from what I remember, she wasn't getting much financial aid from my other parent. Doesn't get much help from anybody but her parents. My grandparents played a lot in helping us financially to stay afloat, and so did my uncle, obviously, at the time. This was actually his house, and he rented it out to her. So I would come down the steps, and I would see her crying, or wherever I was. I would get up because I would hear her crying, and I would go and I would sit on her lap. And I would look up to her and say, "Mommy, I love you." And she would always smile at me, and tears would fall from her cheeks onto my face. And she would say, "I love you too." And for many years after that, as I got older, I would reflect back on those times and smile. It's very comforting to be in your mother's arms, even though she's in a great deal of pain, and have her squeeze you and hold you. You know, I felt so safe, so at one. When I look back now, I felt so together. The pains of life brought us together. You know, isn't that wonderful? It's really beautiful. It's not beautiful that people have to go through hard times like that, or to be hurt. But I want to share with you the rest of my life journey, and just know that a lot of what was going on there, with the pressures of life and everything else on top of it, was what she was thinking about, she was bringing about. A lot of pain. A lot of the pain and heartache came from, or comes from, what we think about, our dominant thoughts. As we're thinking of things that we perceive as painful, it's like pieces of the puzzle. The more that you have, the more that you are giving yourself, as far as to, if you're thinking about something that hurts and then you're thinking about another thing that hurts on top of it, that's going to be a little harder on our hearts than if we were just to try to stay positive and think about good things that make us happy. Okay? I want to share a lot of happy times. Let's get that out of the way. I love my mom, and just know we spent a lot of time singing together, and in her time of pain, Tracilyn would come along, and she would say how much she loved her mother, and she would say, "I love you too," and then we would sing together. We sang all the time. We sang all the time. Our whole family did. We sang. But I was most certainly the entertainer in the household. I wanted to make everybody laugh. I wanted to make everybody forget about their pains. I didn't want anybody sad, especially my mommy. Did you look up the Dukes of Hazzard? I'm almost certain during this time is when the Dukes started coming out. It might have been 1979 before we left here. I'm not 100% sure on this. But I did have a Matchbox collection. And maybe this wasn't the time just yet. But at some point I had the General Lee. From what I remember, it was in this house when I started fantasizing very strongly. Remember I said back at the other home, it was the hair? So I kept telling my mommy I wanted to have long hair like Cher, and she let me have long hair. It wasn't long like Cher, but it was long. At some point I started watching the Dukes of Hazzard, and I had my Matchbox collection. Remember I told you my imagination was ignited here. Well, whenever I would push those matchboxes, I would pretend that I was a girl. I'm almost sure this is the place where I started to pretend that I was Daisy Duke. And I always had a bikini on, and that bikini was red or black. Don't know why red or black. I look back on the Dukes of Hazzard and I remember seeing Daisy Duke in a red bikini. And at that time, I do know that Daisy Duke is the first girl I saw in a bikini, and I wanted to wear a bikini like Daisy Duke. Not only did I want to wear a bikini like her, but I wanted to look like her. And I wanted to be loved and liked and cared for and protected like her. I wanted that character's personality. You know, I pretty much wanted to be just like her. And it was probably because I had a challenging life, and I wanted times of happiness and joy. So when I would push those matchboxes around, they were always loud cars, fast cars. Well, we always had the fastest because I had a boyfriend. And usually when I was pushing the motorcycles around that I had, I was always on the back of that motorcycle. I was never the driver. Usually dirt bikes at that time, for some reason. Was it the Dukes of Hazzard, do you think? And the Dukes of Hazzard, did they ride dirt bikes at any time? Because if so, I would have to say that that was the reason. So with that being said, I would push the motorcycle around, and with that, I was on the back in my bikini. If I was in the car, I was in a bikini. I had friends that were mechanics, and we always had the fastest cars. I used to have a Hess truck. Do you remember what a Hess truck is by any chance? Hess truck we used to get here in Pennsylvania. There's a gas station called Hess. It's also a convenience store. They were green and white was the truck's colors, and they had little lights, and my dad knew I loved trucks very much. So with that being said, he would, of course, get me little toys of trucks. And that was one of my favorite trucks that I would push around with the lights on. Especially at nighttime, I would turn the lights off or ask my mom, can I turn the lights off? Just so I could see the trucks, lights light up. It was always fun. Let's see. Oh, here's one more thing. Remember I was telling you about Daisy Duke and me wanting to be more like her? Well, here's two more things. In that house, I was little growing up, when the children would go to school, I would sit with my mother. Every day she got ready, she put on her makeup, she'd do her hair, she curled her hair all the time. And I would sit in the hallway playing with my matchboxes. I played with my matchboxes a lot. And I would watch my mother do herself up every day. I wanted to do myself up like her and be beautiful. From what I remember, Grease was a big thing, or disco was really big back in the day. And she used to look a lot like Olivia Newton-John. I don't know if I said her name properly, but she's from Grease. Remember her? Sandy. And she would wear her black satin pants and her disco shoes. And she would have a blouse on, and she would look just like her, from the lady from Grease. And of course, when nobody was looking, I would get into her disco shoes and I would put them on and start walking around the house, clowning around to make her laugh. There were times that I would go up to that bathroom later on in the day when nobody else was around, and I would lock the door. And whenever I would be on the potty, I would always lock the door, and my mom knew that I did not want to be seen. Let me just make this clear. Tracilyn never wants to be seen on the potty, or at least at that time. Obviously now, if you look at my other videos on my music YouTube page, you will see that I'm very open about my life, and I got over my shyness in a lot of ways. But in that day, I don't want to be seen on the bathroom potty. So everybody knew when the door was locked that if they knocked, because there was a lot of kids in the house and my mom, you know, it was hurry up, I gotta use the bathroom too. You know, we had one bathroom. Sometimes if we had to do number 1 instead of number 2, we would end up being told, go out back, go outside if you gotta go that bad. Just go outside if you gotta go that bad. So I would go up there after my mom was done, and I remember the first time she was done, I went upstairs. I figured she's busy doing other things. I knew my mom's patterns and routines. I figured that out right away, you know, as we were going through life, that people have patterns. So while she was downstairs doing stuff, I snuck upstairs. And then I would try to do my makeup just like her, and I was always sad because it never turned out for me. It never turned out for me. And I would look goofy. So I was, of course, really scared for anybody to see me because I wanted to put it on that nobody could notice it was on. Just wanted to look pretty. And one day she came up and she knocked on the door. She said, "What are you doing in there?" And I said, "Mom, don't. I'm going potty." I'm gonna go to the potty right now. And let me just say that I rushed very quickly to wash that makeup off of my face before she walked in and caught me. She had no idea at that time. Understand, and as I go through my life journey with you and share my life journey with you, you will find out that she didn't even know what I was doing then. I was surprised. I was surprised. That was the first time I almost got caught. Almost. But I didn't get caught putting on makeup on my face. At that time, I wasn't trying to curl my hair. I was just doing the makeup. I used to sit in there a lot of times. I'd put makeup on and I didn't know what else to do because I couldn't go outside the bathroom. And I don't know exactly how old I was. I wasn't in first grade yet. So I was probably 5, 4, maybe. But I do remember it happened in this house and I was sitting on the potty because I didn't know what else to do. I can't go outside. I can't go show my mom or get my mom to help me because I was too scared to ask. And what would she think of me? What would she say? What would other people do to me? So I sat on the bathroom potty and sometimes I would just stare into the mirror. Yeah. And I would think, I just want to be beautiful, I want to be pretty. So you can imagine what I looked like, a clown. And I don't want to insult any clowns. I'm sorry about that. I don't mean that. I'm sorry. Can I take that back? I can't delete it because I told myself I'm going to go through this and not delete it or edit it. I'm sorry, clowns. I didn't mean that. But I probably looked funny. How's that? Funny like we perceive clowns. Goofy funny. Funny in a positive way. Let me just move on from there. I don't want to hurt a clown's feelings. Sad clowns. Let's go up here a little bit. You get another view of the house as I'm talking. There's a lot to share here, and I want to get this. I want to share with what happened in this house before we move on to the school that I went to, the first school. So, as we're going through this, just know these were exciting times in my life. Times that I reflected back on as I got older, and I wish that I could relive them over again. I always wanted to relive my life over again. Well, let me just say, this is probably one of the last times. I always look back on a negative, very negative. The times when my mom was crying, I would feel so sad and keep reflecting back. I was so hurt. I didn't understand. Why is my mom crying? Why did we have to go through such a hard life when reality is we made it and we were okay. We survived. And I'm still here. Almost 41 years later, I'm 40. 29, 19, 17, 2, 3. I still wear diapers, Look on the videos. Go on my other YouTube page. If you type in Tracilyn or VCAT, you'll be surprised what you find of me. I do still to this day enjoy wearing diapers, and I'll explain more about that, of how I tapped into the reality of that. Okay, so here we go. We're here at another house. See over there? That is where my first best friend lived. First best friend. We used to hang out. I don't remember a whole lot. Except for one thing, at one point before we got ready to move, I don't know if it was the stress of me sharing with him that we were leaving, or I don't know. Maybe it had nothing to do with that. But I do realize that this was the first time I got into a fight with anybody. And I don't like to fight. I didn't like to fight then. I don't want to fight now. I don't like angry people. It's not that I don't like them. My energy is to stay away from anger. So please understand, I do like angry people. It's just that I can't be around angry people. It's in my nature to kind of just withdraw myself from that till they cool down. So with that being said, we got into a fight. It was out back. And I don't think I necessarily stood up for myself like I should have. And I don't mean that I don't feel that. Uh-oh, I lost my sunglasses. We got to find them. I don't mean that I don't. how can I say this clearly? I do not promote fighting unless one is protecting themselves. How's that? So I probably should have stood up for myself a little more. Oh, there we go. It's over here. Yeah. Look, I dropped my sunglasses while I was telling you about that fight. So I'm going to put my sunglasses back in over here. How about that? Can you see me okay? Is that okay? I'm sorry if you can't see me. Maybe you can just listen to me as you go through and you clean your house. Or you tend to your children, or maybe you're a child and you want to play a card game or something. I don't know what you do, playing your video games. You can listen to this. So my first friend, and we got into a fight in the backyard. And I remember how devastated I was. And if he has somehow found me, I can't even remember his name. I think I know what it is, but I'm not going to say it. May I just say, because I'm showing the house, and I don't want to bring other people's lives or affect them in any way negatively. So I'm just going to say that I have forgiveness, and I hope you're okay. I hope life has been good to you, and you've been good with life. And you're still around, and you're enjoying it very much. Remember, over there is the house that I stayed in, and there's a garage there. It's kind of like, it looks like a barn. Let me zoom in here really quick. Okay, see that barn door that's opened right now? It was a garage that my uncle used to park his car in. That was the first tragedy of mine that involved a house pet that I was 100% for sure lost its life. Let me tell you this really quick. Behind our house was a bunch of bricks for some reason. I don't know if it was from building the house, or the chimney, if it was a repair or something in the house. There was bricks in the backyard, big piles of it. And what I did is somehow I found a cat, and I told my mommy, I want a cat, I want a cat. There's a cat in the backyard, I want a cat. And she would not let me bring it into the house. For many reasons, and I understand as I get older, a little why, you know, she had those reasons. And here's the thing. So she told me I could build a house with the bricks because I didn't know what else to do. And she left me, we got food up at the corner store and water. And I remember making this brick house, but I didn't really understand what I was doing as a child. And I ended up, because I didn't want this cat to run away in the middle of the night, so I closed it off with bricks. That was wrong. It's almost like I buried a cat alive in bricks. Did you ever do something foolish like that? Did you? I did. And boy, was it painful, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the next day, I got a phone call from my uncle. He actually talked to my mother. My mother answered the phone first, and she was so sad. She gave me the phone. She said, your uncle needs to talk to you about something. And I'll never forget the pain in his heart when he had to tell me that he accidentally ran over the cat. Somehow the cat got out, and I dropped the phone, and I ran out back, and I saw the bricks were caved in, and I didn't understand what happened. And I ran over to the garage because he thought that it was very important that I saw where the cat was for this reason. He didn't want me to think that they took the cat and got rid of it somewhere or gave it to somebody. He wanted me to see and learn from that. And I'll never forget how painful I was when I seen that cat laying on the garage floor. It hurt a lot. And he was so sorry, and I knew he was sorry. And I can't remember if I held a grudge with him or not. He was always the uncle that ran over my cat from that day. I forgive you. I really do forgive you. It's okay. Remember I told you about the bunny rabbit? That was intentional. I don't believe this was intentional. Okay, and there's something to learn in both. But can you imagine how I felt? Have you ever tried to protect a cat or an animal? Provide a home for it? Even when you were told that you can't? Did you ever do that? Did that happen to you? Where an animal that you were caring for ended up dying somehow? And you just felt so horrible. listen, I hope you're okay with it in the end. I hope there's something that you learn with it. For me, I hold on to life a little more dearer since that moment. You know, and I reflect on that often. Do you know how it made me feel throughout my life? It made me feel like I can't care for anything else. Instantly. Because I tried to provide a home for that cat, and that cat ended up losing its life. I didn't provide a safe home because that cat broke the wall that I put there. And I was really confused about that for years. And many times, even into my teen years, I would reflect back on that, you know. I was scared to have a pet after that, to taking care of one. Even when I had a dog for 10 years. I was still scared. Am I going to be able to take care of him properly? So, and I'm going to explain that later on. But for now, we got that. As well, this is the first situation. We have a garden in the backyard, and I don't know if I can necessarily get there right now. I'm going to try to take you around out back if it's possible. But what I want to share with you is some moments that happens in our backyard. So for now, we're going to take off with this. We had my cousins living over here. My imagination was ignited. We knew that Tracilyn at that time, she didn't know, wanted to be a very attractive lady and be surrounded by lots of men, so she was safe and well protected, loved, cared for. She had lots of fast cars. Okay. She was the entertainer. This is where it all happened. Oh, one more thing. One more thing. Can I share two more things? Remember I told you about the nanny that we had? Well, she played guitar. Oh yes, she was the first one that introduced me physically, in a real life form, the guitar. She used to keep that guitar hidden under the bed. Not necessarily hidden, but stored away. You put it in a case and then slide it under the bed. And often she would play that guitar for us. And I saw where that guitar was going after she was done with it. And she would always tell me, because she knew I was so drawn, I wanted to touch it. You ever remember the first time you touched something that you love even to this day? I just wanted to touch it like this. She left me touch that guitar. But she also warned me, Tracilyn, do not ever pull this out unless I'm here. Okay? You let me get it out, and then I'll let you play it. Do you think I could listen and surrender to that? A guitar in our house, and nobody's playing it at that time? I know where it's stored. I know where it is. I want to be like Elvis. I want to rock and roll, baby, for the rest of my life. But at that time, John Denver was really popular as well. We love John Denver. We love the Muppets. And on the Muppets, I got to be introduced to John Denver. And on Hee Haw, the guys playing the banjos and the guitars and stuff like this. It's driving me crazy. I want to play guitar like everybody else on TV and on the radio. And like my nanny, my living nanny. She played guitar. So check this out. One day, I pull that guitar out like this from under the bed, and I snap it open. When I open it up, guess who gets caught? Guess who happens to walk into my room? It's unbelievable, you know. So she walks into the room, and for the first time in my life, for something that I love, I get my hands slapped. Did you ever get your hands slapped? Did anybody ever slap your hands as you were reaching out to something that you really love and wanted to play with? Maybe it was a toy. Was it a guitar? Was it a microphone? Was it a truck? Was it a matchbox? Was it your sister's doll? Was it a stuffed animal? Was it this guy over here? Maybe it wasn't this guy over here. I want to be right back to you because this guy over here has a question for me, okay? So I love you, and I'll be right back. Okay guys, so this will happen as I go through my life journey. Check this out. So the gentleman that now lives there, he comes up to me and he approaches me. He wants to know what it is that I'm doing with the camera. So let's just make it very clear. I left him know that I'm on public property owned by the taxpayers. Okay, and in this country, I know a lot of times people want to stop people from doing whatever it is. They don't understand it. I am usually an outsider doing weird things to other people. Not meaning to people, but I'm doing weird things in the open because I don't sit behind a computer all day looking at things. I'm creating things for others to view who are sitting at the computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on since he's getting nervous. I'm going to move on up here to the school. I'm probably going to go out back here. And I want to share with you some pretty amazing stories. But before I do, where that blue truck is, you can see it. We used to also, my brothers, my older cousins, used to have BB guns. And with those BB guns, sometimes instead of shooting at objects, they would shoot at me. Did you ever have somebody do that to you? A BB gun? Nowadays, I can only imagine how much trouble somebody would get into for shooting a BB gun. Oh, goodness. So anyway, and I remember the one time I got hit there alongside where that truck is, alongside the house. And I went in crying my eyes out to my mother. And of course, they had to apologize. And at that time, we did, the punishment was for the children to be grounded. And nobody wanted to be grounded because you didn't go home or to your bedroom and go on the computer. You were not allowed to go outside and play with your friends. And you did have to go to your room. And you had to find ways to entertain yourself during that time. And, you couldn't go online to chat with other people. What about you? Can you tell me? What is it that you had to go through? Do you still get grounded? Did you ever get grounded? Do you remember those days? Do you remember going around the neighborhood and getting people with toy, like BB guns? Did you ever do that? Don't do that. Please don't do that. I don't recommend that gets done to anyone, and I'm sorry if it happened to you. So, my name is Tracilyn. I'm also known as VCat. You are now watching the VCat blog, the VCat V-blog. And I'm sharing with you my whole life story of the last 40 years. I call it the catch-up series. Because I want to catch up, and from this day forward, when I complete this project, I want to continue to share my whole life with everybody. That's always been my dream. What about you? What's your dream? Leave me a comment down below. Know that my name is spelled Tracilyn, and I'm not sure which side it's on. It could be this side. Is it this side? Can you let me know? Is it this side, or is it this side over here? My website, Tracilyn.com. Got free music to download, free, absolutely free. I don't want your money, you can keep your money. However, I am looking for people who would be generous to consider the possibilities of making a small contribution so I can continue to keep the show going, of sharing my life story while going on the road. I need things like gas, and I do stay at very low, mid-grade, if you will, hotels right now. Sometimes I have to sleep in my car. And we're going deeper into that, but if you can contribute to the cause, know that it would be appreciated because it takes time. I need food and gas resources for the car. Keep the wheels rolling. The wheels keep rolling all night long. The wheels keep rolling. So Tracilyn.com, you can get to know me on Facebook at Tracilyn /Facebook.com/Tracilyn21. Facebook.com/Tracilyn.com. Get to know me. And all the links are there on my website. It's one of these down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. Share some of your life with me. What do you think of this? Is this boring? What could I do to make it more interesting? I'd love to wear costumes. I'd love to do a lot of other things, but I am on a pinch of a tight schedule, and I'll explain more about that as time goes on. So I'm trying to rush through this and get some of the key critical times in my life that will help you to better understand who I am, maybe tap into who you are, and as well, it's a healing process for myself. So sometimes we run into people, they're curious to know, what is Tracilyn, also known as VCat, doing out in our front yard with that camera? Is she spying on us? Is she up to no good?